Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Terry Slavin. I'm the editor-in-chief of Reuters Events Sustainable Business, and I'm here today with Virginie Helias, who's Chief Sustainability Officer at Procter & Gamble. And we're talking about how to accelerate action to achieve corporate net zero commitments. Virginie, let's start with asking about how P&G is doing towards its goals under Ambition 2030.
Absolutely. Hi, Terry. Very nice to be here today. So indeed, our goals are part of Ambition 2030, which is this roadmap that we launched 2 years ago. And within that, our climate commitment is to reduce our greenhouse gas emission by 50%. And purchase 100% renewable electricity. Now, the 2020 goals that we are sunsetting this year was to reduce our greenhouse gas emission by 30%. And we expect that we will over-deliver this. And we are already purchasing 100% renewable electricity in North America and most of Europe. So 50% is for 2030. That is a science-based target, which means that it's aligned with the objective of keeping the temperature increase well below 2 degrees as per the Paris Agreement. And last week, we announced that we are going to go beyond that by balancing the remaining emission, the remaining 50% greenhouse gas emission, by investing in natural climate solutions, so that we will be carbon neutral for the decade, 2020-2030.
Okay, let's talk about that separately. But I just wanted to talk to you about, so that's impressive that you've managed to get, you said 100% renewable electricity
in North America and most of Europe, yes.
And okay, so what would you say is the biggest contributor towards that? How did you manage that?
I think one of the enablers has been to be able to pool the demand and articulate the scale of this demand. And we are part of the Renewable Energy Buyers Alliance that does exactly that, to get together and articulate the type of project that all our members are looking for. And collective voice in that space has a much greater influence than a lone company voice. And so that has helped us unlock new opportunities. So that has been one of the key enablers.
So do you pool your needs? So how many members are there in that alliance?
I don't know exactly the number, but we are dozens of members, and yes, we kind of look at the range of demand and the type of project, and with the scale, it helps signals to the industry what are the type of project that we need. So it did help unlock new opportunities, and we have a project in Texas, which is a wind farm. We have our biomass cogeneration in Albany for our tissue towel business. So we have now a number of projects that has been unlocked by this organization. We're also a member of the ARI 100 that has the same objective, to share best practices, to get the buyers together, and to look at really what is a system transformation. So we need to get together to do that. One company alone doesn't make much progress on this.
And in the US, you've also, are you doing this through power purchase agreements, the PPAs?
Yes.
And have the renewable, like the individual states have certain targets, don't they, for renewable purchasing?
Yes, but we look actually at opportunities across the globe. We are a global company, so we go for projects where it makes the most sense. And logically, we started with North America and Europe, but the next frontier would be a country like China. If we want to get to 100% renewable electricity globally, we will need to go beyond the obvious North America and Western Europe, and help create the market, and the regulation and the policies. So that's kind of the next frontier to get to our goals of 100% globally.
So how much of your China operations, how much renewable energy are you sourcing there?
In China, it's just, we have one plant. We started there. The number, I can get back to you on the exact number, but we have this, I think the key in China has been to develop a model that is scalable. So in 2012 already, we built this plant in the Jiangsu province, which is the Taichung plant. And it has actually been the lighthouse for all our factories across the world, because the design idea was to build it as a Chinese water garden, which is interesting because that's what it is today. I mean, like families come on weekends for a stroll because this is such a beautiful factory with pure air. The water coming out is more pure than the water coming in, and it's powered with 100% wind electricity. And so we were one of the first companies in the regions to go and proactively work with the government, to develop a framework for renewable energy purchasing. And now that we have a model that is working, we intend to continue to look for opportunities in that country and work with a range of stakeholders. So that includes government and project developers, and we'll look for new PPA opportunities there.
And does that include other renewable energy purchasers as well, other companies and competitors?
It could, absolutely. So
are you leading on this, do you think, or?
So we are clearly in the lead. We have a commitment to, as I said, to get to 100%. So we are right now in the process of scoping and looking at the best opportunities. But as I said, we don't do that by region, we do that globally. But we know that China is a place that is clearly interesting. Russia is another of this kind of a wide space where we're actively looking for new opportunities.
Okay, let's turn to your announcement about you're going to NetZero. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yes. So it's very exciting because it's a new space for us, to be able to partner with nature, as I call it, to help us achieve our climate goals. And experts said that nature holds up to a third of the climate solution. So I think it's a wonderful thing. I think we do that, and we expect more companies to join. But the idea is that we have this 50% greenhouse gas emission reduction goal. We set that up, as I said, 2 years ago. Now, last year, the UN released this pretty, terrible report, that looked at the emission gap, versus the Paris Agreement, and basically showing that collectively we are totally off, the right trajectory. And so this is where we started to ask ourselves, although 50% is kind of our fair share contribution, we need to go beyond that. And so we looked at how we can reduce the remaining 50%. Fact is, this 50% emission is mostly thermal energy. And today, there is no viable, scalable technology to replace this thermal footprint by renewable sources. Not yet. There will be, and we've created, with WWF and others, the Thermal Energy Collaborative to find solution. But today and for the next decade probably, there won't be. So we said, well, then the best way then to balance those remaining emissions is to invest in natural climate solution. Which some people say, okay, you are just planting trees. Absolutely not. We are, and that's why we are working also with those formidable NGOs, Conservation International, WWF, because they tell us, where it's the smartest way to invest. Where are those critical natural ecosystems that are the richest in carbon, and where we absolutely need to keep the carbon stored. and actually most of it, and we work with them on a portfolio of projects along the spectrum of protect, improve the land, and restore the land. And it's very important that we have this wide portfolio because in some instances, protection is actually much more valuable in terms of carbon benefit than restoring or planting trees. And this is why we've already identified 3 projects. And 2 of them are more in the protection field of very high carbon stores like the mangroves in the Philippines. But that's why, you know, working with those NGOs is so critical so that we invest in the right place.
So are we talking about REDD+ projects? Are we talking about where they'll earn carbon credits?
So sorry, say that again.
The projects, are they REDD+ projects? Are they projects under the reduced emissions? I'm not even sure what the acronym means anymore, but where it was set up under the former Kyoto Protocol, where you get carbon credits for investing in nature-based solutions. And
so this is not the construct that we have, because we looked at what is the remaining 50% greenhouse gas emission. It's more or less 30 million tons of CO2. You know, could become more depending on our growth and our ability to actually reduce our thermal footprint, as I was talking about. But let's say 30 million tons. And then we said, okay, what are the projects that represent 30 million tons that we should invest in? So yes, you could say it's carbon credit, but for us, it's really success is that we eliminate all those emissions for the decades. And so we are selecting projects that will correspond to those 30 million tons of CO2.
Okay, so they're not going to be part of a country's, say, count towards a country mitigating its carbon footprint, because a lot of countries in the Paris Agreement have committed to nature-based solutions to try and, as part of their national contributions to climate.
Of course, what we want, I mean, behind your question, I guess what we want to avoid is double counting, like everybody's claiming, you know, the same carbon benefits. Yeah. So I think those are additional projects, you know, I think that's what's important. Like you take the Palawan mangroves in the Philippines right now, I mean, there is no project. So Conservation International is actually, we're in the planning phase, working with the government, with the community, you know, to scope out the project to understand, by the way, not just looking at the carbon benefit, but looking very holistically at the system. What are the social, what are the economic benefits linked to this? So it is additional to what the countries have today. You know, we in that sense, we're not double counting the benefits.
And it's not actually counting towards science-based targets, is it?
So this is, I mean, for us, this is on top. As I said, our science-based target is the 50% greenhouse gas emission. This is on top to get to carbon neutrality.
Okay.
And you know, when you talk with the experts, again, I mean, this is a new space where we are very much learning, but what they tell you is that some people have said, you know, while investing in natural climate solution is not in line with the Paris Agreement. But actually, you know, what is not compliant is to do that instead of reducing your own emission, right? But what we know is that even if we were to decarbonize 100% of the economy, we could still fail to meet the Paris Agreement if we continue to destroy the ecosystems, you know? So that's why, you know, the role of companies, it's really to job number one, decarbonize your own operation, and then on top, invest in natural climate solution. And this is exactly what we're doing.
And is there a system for accounting, for measuring and accounting for the emissions reductions?
Yes, that's actually the most critical. And this is why we are partnering with CI and WWF, who have obviously much more expertise than we do. Our approach is really to use the best-in-class practices in terms of accounting to be very transparent. So every year we will disclose our projects, their scope, their impacts, and the methodologies that we are using. And we also want to create for that effect an external advisory board with CI and WWF, but with all the NGOs who have expertise in this, to make sure that we use the best-in-class practice in this emerging field, and we will be extremely transparent in sharing what methodology we are using.
What of the 3 projects that were cited? What is the most exciting for you?
The mangroves one.
Yeah.
First, because I think 5 years ago I didn't even know what mangroves were, and I'm getting into this fascinating thing, which is has, first of all, are totally threatened because of the effect of climate change and the role that they play in mitigating the effect of climate change, helping with flooding and everything else. And the fact that their soil is so rich that their ability to store carbon is extraordinary. So I think, and they have like a population, indigenous population, who rely on this ecosystem, for livelihood. So I think it's such an amazing kind of holistic story of carbon, social, economic, highly threatened. So here we were talking mostly about protection, a bit of restoration, but I think it's those ecosystems that if we don't protect now, I think our hope to revert climate change will be very, very slim.
That's, this is something we're looking at in our September issue on sustainable oceans as well. That's
and there is a link with the sustainable ocean, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think there's more carbon, per ton of shrimp. It causes more environmental destruction than beef does.
Yes.
Just the way it's farmed.
Wow.
Is the statistic. Okay, so maybe we can then talk a bit more about what you're doing on plastic. This is something that you're very interested in, and
yes.
And that link, the climate link there.
So as part of Ambition 2030, the overall goal is to enable and inspire positive impacts across our supply chain, our brands, our employees, and our partnership. And partnership is really those goals that are too big for us alone to achieve. And we have 3 priorities in that, which is plastic waste, climate change, and water scarcity, with obviously overlaps between the 3. Plastic is something that we've started to tackle, the past years with several strategies, because, how do you fight plastic waste? It goes from design, so designing a product that are recyclable, that's something we control 100%, and we have a goal to be 100% recyclable across all our packaging. But then it goes into system innovation. One of the things that is a bottleneck today is the quality and quantity of recycled plastic. One of the reasons is because of the sorting, the ability for recyclers to sort very accurately by types of resin is limited. So the output is not the best quality most of the time, and so that has implication on the economics of the whole system. And so P&G, with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and other companies, have invented this Holy Grail, things, the code name of the project, but it's basically digital watermark that you put on the packaging, like invisible barcode all over the packaging, imagine. And then it basically says exactly what type of resin. So when it goes through the recyclers, the stream is extremely clean and much higher value. So those are the type of things that address plastic waste in a very systemic fashion. The third thing that we've been doing is engaging people to recycle, because obviously if you design your packaging 100% recyclable, no one recycle, that's a moot point. And we've done several things on this, like the beach plastic bottle campaign, which really the objective was to raise awareness of the issue of plastic going to the ocean and encouraging people to recycle their old bottle. So, that's what we know how to do. We have brands that touch 5 billion people around the world. So engaging them in being part of the solution has been a key focus. The fourth thing is really creating the end market, which is integrating post-consumer recycled plastic in our own packaging. And now all our businesses have from 25 to, in some instances, 100% of their content is PCR, post-consumer recycled plastic. And the last, not the least, is to work at the infrastructure level. Because if you encourage people to recycle, but there is no infrastructure, again, that's the mute point. And as you know, 60% of the leakage occurs in countries, Southeast Asia, where the waste is mismanaged or not managed. And so this is why last year we created the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, with the biggest effort of its kind, 40 companies, and our CEO chairs this alliance, committing $1.5 billion to develop solutions that are scalable and that are investable for the big institutional investor. Because as I've heard so many times, the money is not an issue. What's missing is the investable projects that can be scaled. And so that's really the mission of the Alliance. So we are working across the system. That's really a system transformation thing. It continues to be a key focus for us. And as much as climate. And your question on climate, we have a goal to reduce our use of virgin petroleum plastic by 50%. That has a direct link to climate. So, and actually more and more, since climate is now front and center, we make that link. It's about carbon, and the circular economy keeps the carbon and avoids more emissions. So there is a clear link between the two.
I mean, and also we've seen Loop, which is the last time when I met you in New York, we were talking about Loop, which is just launched here. So have you been, what have you found with people's involvement in Loop? Yeah,
tons of learning. So we are still in pilot, in France and in the US, in the New York area. And we are launching in Tokyo. Loop has launched in the UK. The most interesting evolution is now Loop is integrated with retailers. So in France, it's in Carrefour. In the US, it's Procter. And Loop will be now physically present in store. That's the vision, which is very important because what we found is that, obviously e-commerce has exploded and with COVID and stuff, but people still, because it's so new as a concept, so seeing and being able to touch this durable, refillable packaging is very important for people. Is it high quality? Can I really reuse that several times? Can I put it on my counter because it's so beautiful? So for people to be able to see and touch in store, I think would be a great accelerator for adoption of the system.
Seeing is believing, and I've just signed up for it, so I'm looking forward to seeing that too.
Right.
Virginie, I think unfortunately we're out of time. Been really interesting speaking to you, and thank you very much.
It was my pleasure. Thank you, Terry.